My grandfather, he was in the Lucchese family. They said his name was Joe Babes because he was a womanizer. But then I looked him up. I Googled him. He got the name Joe Babes from accidentally shooting a baby on a hit.
They made Gandolfini look like a beast.
Yes.
Right?
I love you for saying that because I'll shit all over HBO right now. And he was always very vocal about people being taken advantage of. And they took advantage of him in his death, which was not even close to who he was. And that wasn't even the kind of guy I was. And I go, Uncle Sonny, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, that fucking Sonny Franzese.
I'm walking redemption.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end. As always, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. My guest, Drea de Matteo. Yeah, I've been really excited about having you on, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you're an independent woman. You have a lot of principle, and you're not afraid to talk about it. So it's great. You're actually the first in the studio.
Oh, really?
Yes, that I've had here. But
I think I was the first in at Dr. Drew's studio too.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
because it was the first.
So this is the first, and I got to ask you something right away. You grew up in Whitestone.
Yes.
You were in one of probably the most iconic series ever in The Sopranos. Did you ever have any involvement with any wise guys?
When I was on The Sopranos, no. I had known that my grandfather was in the Mafia. Joe Babes was his name. He was, okay, I don't know the families right now. I used to know everything. Back when you did my podcast, I knew every family. This is your area of expertise. Lately, all I've been focused on is all the election stuff. I'm sure you know that. So I'm not brushed up on my Mafia. But my grandfather, I think I want to say he was in the Lucchese family. What was your family?
Columbus.
Okay. So he was Lucchese. They said his name was Joe Babes because he was a womanizer. And he used to beat the shit out of my grandmother. And he would come home with the lipstick on the neck and, the whole cliche story. But then I looked him up. I Googled him. And I couldn't believe he was Googleable. And it said that he got the name Joe Babes from accidentally shooting a baby on a hit. So I was like, oh, okay. My mother hated him, and she's written numerous plays about him, but then she would come to forgive him later on in her life. He was, the players that I always heard about.
Did you know him?
No.
You never
He
did.
died at 50 with his face in a plate of spaghetti at the track, and he won. So his men brought home $3,000 to my grandmother and said, and he's dead. And my mother, I remember, because she's written about it, because she was playwright, she wrote about how, like in that moment, she was relieved that he was gone. She's written countless plays about her childhood and her life growing up with being a little mafia princess. But I never really talked about it on The Sopranos. I never really did press even that much at that time. I didn't want anybody to know that I didn't talk like this. I wanted everybody to believe that this is who I was. Like I never wanted to break my mom pushed me out of Queens. She didn't want me to be anywhere near the kids there. She didn't want me to grow up like that. She was a playwright. All the kids in the neighborhood called her a lesbian because she went into the West Village at night, even though she was married to my father with 50 Cadillacs in the driveway. But they're like, oh no, she's a lesbian. It's like the liberals now, like just making shit up and whatever. So she really wanted me to have a completely different life that she was raised in. So Mafia ties, the names that I would hear around my house, Trigger Mike Coppola, is that right? You know that name?
Yes, I do.
Carmine Tremonti.
Yes.
Okay. He was, we were close to his family. I don't know about Carmine and Trigger Mike. That was before my time. But all of their family members I was used to seeing these people all the time. And I have crazy stories that, my mom just passed this summer. My dad's been gone a while. I have a story for you in particular.
Okay.
Here's the story.
So many of you know I've been in the wine business now for just over 2 years, and I'm happy to report that we've been very successful. People are accepting our wine, not only all over the United States, but all over the world. We're getting, people that want to have our wine in various countries, very rewarding. And our wines are from Armenia, the ancient vineyards, first vineyards in the new civilization. We're introducing it into the United States, been very successful in that. We have a couple of different categories. Our Irani is our #1 seller, terrific, you're gonna love it. We also have a pomegranate wine that you won't find anywhere else. And now we've just introduced non-alcoholic wines, and it's off the charts. People are loving that. If you don't drink wine and you want to participate with everybody that does, ours tastes so good, people are really enjoying it. I recommend it. So if I were you, I would go right now to our website, franzesewine.com. It'll tell you where you can buy it. We're in 9 or 10 different states now, soon to blanket the entire country. I know you're going to enjoy it. So thank you all for supporting us, those of you that are enjoying it. We always say it's a sip you can't refuse, and I guarantee if you try it, you're going to see that I'm right.
So my uncle calls me one day, my Uncle Sonny. He was the maitre d' at the track in Yonkers. For years. One of his brothers were connected to, I don't know what he did. He's a De Matteo. I know that was his last name. Union. I think he worked within the unions and stuff like that. I don't know my dad's history that much. I really didn't know. I just know that he opened up a furniture store when he was 30 years old or whatever it was. He married my mom when he was 27, I think, and she was 19. And she did not want to be with anybody in the Mafia. That's how she was raised. She didn't want anything to do with it.
And your dad wasn't connected in any way, though?
No, but his father also they called him the Dunny. He owned a pizza place in the Bronx on Arthur Avenue.
Arthur Avenue. Well, then he definitely knew people.
And he was the Dunny. I don't think he made money because they were poor, but they all came to him for advice. My Uncle Sonny calls that he misses my father. I haven't spoken to him in forever, but I had been sort of praying a little bit that I felt a connection to my dad, unusual. He'd been gone for a minute, but I sort of felt like something lingering. I don't know what it was. So my uncle reached out, who I never speak to, and he wanted to talk. Oh, my brother called me and said, Uncle Sonny's really sad. He misses Daddy. And my uncle would be like, I just want to leave now so I could go be with my brother. We're like, you have kids. He's like, I want to be with my brother. That's how much he loved him. They loved each other. And I get him on the phone, and he starts ranting and raving about how he bought a gun. That mother was gonna kill my little brother, and I went and got a gun, and I swore, and that wasn't even the kind of guy I was. And I go, Uncle Sonny, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, that fucking Sonny Franzese.
Wow.
And I said, what? I said, do you know that I just did a podcast with Michael a few years back?
So this was fairly recent?
It was, no, because my Uncle Sonny passed. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't tell the story now. But it was a couple of years after we did the podcast.
When did we do that? It was 4 or 5 years ago?
Was it after it was right out of the pandemic?
Yeah.
No, it was in. We were still in.
Like the first few months of the pandemic.
So that was 4 years ago?
It was a while, maybe 4 or 3.
Okay.
Whenever the date, I don't know, because your episode was our first.
Okay, so the pandemic was 2020. So if it was 21, 3 years ago.
Yeah. And then I spoke to my uncle a year or 2 years later.
Okay.
So he's going, and I'm like, I don't even want to interrupt him because now I just want the gossip. I'm like, what the are you talking about? And I said, Uncle Sonny, do you know that I just did a podcast with Michael, his son? That made him even more crazy. That motherfucker. If it weren't for that rat, I would have. Your father might be dead today, he said, because they had to call the hit off because Sonny was in prison. Your father was in prison, right? I don't know the whole scope of it, and I couldn't quite he was so emotional about it all, and I don't think he was talking about you, because when I put the timelines together,
right,
I think he was talking about your older brother. Okay. Because you were 80s, right? That was in the 80s when all that went down. I think by the time the 80s came around, my father's life evened out and his company was in a different place. So I called my brothers and I go, what is he talking about? And then they start filling me in little by little. I'm surprised they know anything and I don't know anything, but this is being the princess of the family and nobody tells you shit.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's partner convinced my dad to ask his old people in his old world to lend them money for my dad's furniture company.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was offered a button in every family but the Gambinos. The Gambinos said he was too wild and wouldn't take orders. That's what I heard from my uncle that day on the phone call. And I go, okay, so what does this have to do with anything? And then when my brothers were explaining it to me, it was that my mom had said to him, you take a button from any of these guys, I'm out. That's it. I don't want to be raised. I don't want to raise my kids the way I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be with a man who I'm worried he's never going to come home at night. I mean, I can't tell you the countless events of crazy things that happened to us in the past where my mother wouldn't even allow my dad to know because she was afraid he'd kill them. I didn't know that. I had no idea that she was afraid that he was even that he was even capable of doing something that would land him in prison. My dad was super docile and an awesome, funny guy, but I guess he still had that thing in him from when he was a kid, growing up on the streets like that. But that story.
Well, did you ever get to the bottom of why my father's name?
They
was
lent
mentioned?
him money. They were collecting this money. My father was not paying back the VIG or whatever it was. And I think they were bullying him, like kind of out of control. I don't know the exact particulars, but it was about money owed.
And this was in what time frame? Like 90s or?
No, it had to be way before. Way before. Because when I mentioned his son, I was like, I just did an interview with his son. He didn't know which son. He said that was the saving grace from my dad, even though he was still pissed and yelling and screaming, that because they had to just let that go for something that was going on with your dad. And now the kid was about to be investigated. So any wrongdoing at that point would be completely thwarted, kind of thing. So I'm thinking, Michael Franzese, second chances, your whole thing with, sort of a rebirth and starting a new life. And I thought, how great it would be if it were this son that was the reason that my dad's hit didn't get carried out, because that was a second chance. But I don't think it was you. I think it was your older brother.
It wouldn't be my older brother, because my older brother was not involved in anything.
Who was the one that was
someone
on drugs?
Yeah, my younger brother was the
Okay,
one that eventually he cooperated and had some real problems. But I mean, the one that was highly investigated, that was me. I mean, I had a lot of investigation on me. I mean, I went to trial 7 times. I went to trial 5 times.
80s though, right?
In the 80s. Well, my exit was in like 85.
See, that would have been too late.
Too late?
I think it might have been too late, because they wouldn't have been coming. Although in 85, he was buying this other awful partner out. So he had a lot of money to be able to buy his partner out at that time. So who knows?
Well,
I don't think so, though.
Coincidence.
I know, but I couldn't believe it. I was like, get out of here. What are the chances? And that someone had a hit on my dad. This is your show. You talk about the truth. We're entertainers. We got to entertain the people with crazy stories.
That's interesting. There always seems to be some kind of connection with New York. So many people connected to that life in some way. It's amazing.
I mean, this is a really deep connection from someone who had no idea their father might have even been in that world. Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
So your Sopranos role was kind of a natural. It should have happened. Let's put it that way.
I think so.
It should be this way. How did it happen? And let me tell you what I think about The Sopranos, and you're the same. That is the most iconic series ever. And the reason I mean, there's been great ones afterwards, Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, but it all started with The Sopranos.
Yeah.
All these great series that came were modeled after that because it was so successful. And I think people say it was the best ever. And it's funny. I only watched the first season, and I kind of lost interest in it.
The Sopranos?
Yeah, Sopranos,
Wow.
because I'm saying, some of it's real, some of it's not. And then I went back and started watching it again. I said, what was I missing? Everybody was brilliant in that, including yourself. I mean,
Thank you.
everybody. I really mean it. But how did you get involved in the role?
I originally read for the pilot, and when I went in to read for it, I had no clue that it was a show about Italians. I really thought it was a singer about a show. I really thought it was a show about singers.
Really?
Sopranos.
Soprano, yeah.
They didn't give me a script, and I was going in to just read for Michael's girlfriend, and it wasn't even like a series regular role. It was just what we call a day player.
Mm-hmm.
So David didn't think I was Italian enough. I remember going to that audition and seeing.
Not Italian enough?
No, I had my hair pulled in a ponytail, tight back, no makeup. Back in those days, they tell you, when you're an actor, clean slate, no characteristics that define you. And they even wanted me to change my last name. I laugh about this woke stuff right now in the industry. They don't have no idea what it was like just to be Italian back then. It meant you were dumb. If you had an O at the end of your name, you were always going to be stereotyped to playing one thing and one thing only. You're not going to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything like that. You can only play girls that talk like this, and that's it. And you got to be dumb. And that was it. So I had managers that kept trying to get me to change my name until that fateful day when I read on The Sopranos. It's funny, I had a manager who told me that I had the worst voice she'd ever heard and that I should go take voice lessons. And a lot of actors take voice classes to make their voices better, or speech to get rid of an accent or something. And I said, oh, okay, I'll get rid of the little bit of New York I have left and I'll work on my voice. I know it's raspy. She's like, no, you need opera classes. And I said, what are you talking about, opera classes? She was very exaggerated. And she goes, yeah, you should take opera classes and that'll break through so that your voice can be more cohesive. And I was like, all right, go f yourself. This is insane. And fast forward to 2 weeks later, I would get the part on The Sopranos. So my answer to that was like,
and it was an extended.
Who's singing now, bitch? Because this is called The Sopranos. This was the opera. What are you, a psychic? You're not even an asshole who was telling me what I should do. You're actually a psychic. I'm on a show called The Sopranos now. It was one line, and it wasn't Michael's girlfriend. I read for the Russian. I read for every little tiny role because he liked me because I was Italian.
Did you read for Chase?
Yeah, I read for David. And I don't know if have you seen the documentary?
Bits and pieces. The recent one?
Yeah.
Yeah, bits and pieces. I didn't like the fact that they made Gandolfini look like a beast.
Yes.
Right?
I love you for saying that because I'll shit all over HBO right now. That's right. I'll shit all over you. I don't care if you gave me my life.
It was like the opposite of everything you've heard about him from everybody. I mean, I know people that knew him that said he was just the nicest guy. And
yes.
I mean, I didn't know much about his work ethic, but boy, he did a tremendous job. So it couldn't have been that bad on the set.
Yeah, he was incredible. And that documentary destroyed his character. And but I knew that if I talked about it in public, more people would even want to go watch it. So I didn't want to promote it because I didn't want to give them anything, because the reason they treated him in that way was to make more money. Yeah. And it's like, he was already your cash cow. Exactly. How about a little justice for, and for some, like, rest in peace. Like, this man's rolling over in his grave because you're doing the very thing that he protested against. And he was always very vocal about people being taken advantage of. And they took advantage of him in his death with that sort of sensational portrayal of his life, which was not even close to who he was. They gave you who he was too. It's like, how they do, even in our government, give you just enough truth and then throw all this bullshit in there in between. And that's what they did with him. And they had an opportunity to write him a love song, and they didn't. And I was mortified by that. I really was shocked by it. But you have all these new young people that are not it's like this generation of people creeping in that just weren't raised with any integrity. I mean, we can sit here and say that mafiosos have more freaking integrity than the way these kids are being raised now.
It's all in that book. Absolutely.
I want.
Mafia
I'm
Democracy.
taking one of these
You'll
today.
have a copy. You'll leave with a copy. David could have steered that in a different way,
Oh.
couldn't he? And he didn't.
You know, I let them in my house to shoot that.
Mhm.
They set up, it was 9 hours in my house or something. And they, they were like, you can, everybody's waiving their fees
Mhm.
to do this. And I was like, of course, I want to be a part of this. He gave me my life. I love David, I agree with you. He could, I'll never backtalk David because he's my godfather in my way. But at the same time, I did question it after I saw it and thought to myself, I remember hearing someone say that he didn't like it. But at the same time, he's on record saying certain things in it. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it'll be the first time I say this shit. I guess I'm going to say it. Fuck it. When Alex Gibney asks him, and Gibney's the documentarian, who's an incredible documentarian. He's made great documentaries, and I super respect him. I don't know if HBO was really guiding them in a certain direction and demanded certain things. Networks do tend to do that. HBO had no hand in The Sopranos. They never doctored David's work or told him what to do. It was the first of its kind, like we were saying, and how dare they? It was don't mess with something that works, and it was working out of the gate without anybody tampering with it. Although I'm sure there'd be a few people that pop up and say, I gave notes and I did this, that was David's show, 100% David's show. So yeah, I kind of thought that maybe he could have had a little bit of a say in how that went. But when they asked him, were you surprised that Jim died? And there wasn't even hesitation. It was just this quick no. It was so like, it spoke too many words. It wasn't even like, what does he mean? Like the end of The Sopranos. Is it a mystery when he answers no that abruptly the way he ended and cut to black on The Sopranos?
Which,
like,
by the way, I hated.
With
that
the
ending.
cut to black?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I liked it.
You liked it?
You didn't like it? Why?
Oh. I think I like things wrapped up and done.
Oh,
I don't.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just my personality.
But you know that the next morning there would have been, it's like this Trump administration, right? He gets in, everyone's pumped, and now he's making his picks, and everyone's pissed. Now they think he might be deep state. Now, you know what I mean? Like so if he would have killed Tony Soprano, you would have had half the world furious. If he would have survived, they would have been like, that's a cop-out too. So, in my opinion, and this is nothing to do with David, because I think David always says he dies. I think that might be what David has said.
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
actually.
he did say that.
But the water cooler talk, because the show was so known for the water cooler talk. It was the first of its kind. What better water cooler moment to end on the biggest moment in front of a water cooler where everyone's like, I thought my TV went out, because I thought my TV went out. And I was on the freaking show, and I was floored. I called everyone, and I was like, what just happened? What's going on? Tell me what happened, because my TV just glitched out. And my girlfriend was like, no, dude, that's the ending.
The end.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was a great abstract painting.
Well, I guess if you put your producer's hat on, you say, yeah, you're right. Because now, what's the talk? What happened? I mean, that's the only talk you have. Is he dead? Is he alive? And that's
It was like when Adriana died too.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
How did you feel about becoming an informant? Your role? Did it matter? Or?
So funny. I think about my life now. I feel like I've been an informant for the past 2 years. I feel like I've been this rat. Just ratting out the government all day long about bullshit to anybody that will listen that is not already on board with us. My target audience was the 50-year-old liberal woman. So being a rat on The Sopranos, at first, there was no, it was so gradual. I'm going to make parallels to the government all day and to the last 3 years all day. It all happened very gradually. Like I didn't see it really coming. It just was unfolding.
I was going to say, did they see it coming? Was this something that was
yeah.
well in advance?
Yeah, and I didn't know it. I only knew when I was about to die.
Really?
Yeah, well, I went and asked David.
Well, you were a reluctant informant the whole time. You didn't.
She never gave him anything.
Yeah.
She actually never gave up any information. She also didn't know that much. But, you know, you always ask yourself, like, what would I do in that situation? As an actor, I would ask myself that. And I would have gone to Tony and to Christopher, and I would have said, this is what they are making me do. Let's make the most of it and fuck with them.
Yeah.
Let's steer them into the most bizarre places. But then it turns into like Naked Gun, you know.
Dangerous game, but yeah.
But I mean, TV, but it wouldn't have been as effective.
No.
And people loved her so much.
When did they tell you were going to get killed? Did you know that in advance? Because then that's the end of your role.
Well, it was a strange one. It wasn't the same for me as it was for other actors on the show. They actually, and I don't mean in terms of like respect or, if anything, the men got handled with more excitement over their deaths. Like they got taken out for dinner and it was like a whole thing.
Right.
Like they got to sit down in David's office. I got nothing, which was kind of funny, but I also understood it because I'm like, you know, I'm a girl and whatever. I went to him and said, am I going to make it? It looks like I might not. And I said, I'm only asking you because I want to direct a movie because I was a film student. I wasn't really an actor. I said, I want to direct this movie and I just want to know how long our hiatus is going to be because we took big hiatuses between seasons. And if you are even going to have me back, like, what do you think is going to happen? Mm-hmm. And he sits me down on the curb because we were shooting the episode where I got stuck in the car with Tony Soprano and I have a neck brace. Mm-hmm. And they were shooting, is there a hospital scene? There might have been a hospital scene. They shot it in a house because we were shooting outdoors.
Right.
The driving stuff, and then we shot the hospital scene in someone's house, and we made it look like a hospital in there. And so we were at that house, and he sat me down and told me, we're going to shoot it 2 ways. He said, we're going to shoot it where he kills you, where someone kills you, where you die, and then we're going to shoot it where you don't die. And we're not going to tell anybody what the ending is, not even you,
I was gonna say,
until it airs. Wow. And I was like, why? He's like, well, and I knew why. The confidentiality on set was out of control.
Really?
And everybody had to sign confidentiality agreements every day. It was like a real omerta there, you know, because everybody wanted to sell that information, to get thousands and thousands of dollars just to leak. And that would have been the biggest leak, I guess, for them at that time on the show. So they shot it 2 ways. They shot it 2 ways.
So you actually didn't know until it aired? Or a little bit before?
I took a job. I took another job. And then David found out that I took the other job. And then that was a big drama. He was very upset with me because my agency or somebody leaked it. And then I had to go and do press convincing people that there was no way I took that job because it was just a bad look. It would have been anticlimactic for the show. But even more anticlimactic would have been, there is this scene in that episode where Christopher tells Tony in the laundry room where there's no wire, where Tony always thinks there's no wire, tells him that I was a rat. And Tony says, I'll handle it. And then the next scene is him calling me. So you know I'm dead at that point. You know that watching me drive to my death would have been meaningless. Everybody would have been like, okay, and moving on. And I remember me and Stevie and Michael, I went to everybody and I was like, I think that they need to get rid of this scene. I was like, this is really not doing this death like justice. This is a big death, you know? And they all agreed and we went and talked to the writers. And then when the show aired, the scene was gone. So I don't know if it was because of us or because, you know, they realized it themselves that it was not exciting. But that scene would end up in the next season as a flashback.
Mm.
And then both scenes of my death would be in my death scene. Sorry, guys, this is trivia. Just a little soprano trivia for the day. Hold on, let me drink some water since all I do is talk like a bunch of chiacchierons, you and me.
Chiacchierons. But you know what? Everybody's so interested in the Sopranos. Every once in a while, I'll review an episode and people just, they're all over it.
It has a new life.
It'll never end, yeah.
In the pandemic, it was up 250%.
Yeah, everybody.
And then, yeah. And now I have kids coming up to me. I have all these young kids coming and asking for pictures, and I'm like, what? And it used to be that parents would send their kids over to get a picture, but no, now it's the kids are obsessed with it.
So they're all watching it.
Yeah, it's a cult phenomenon.
Crazy.
No.
Yeah, but listen, it's going to go on forever, and it'll never change with that show.
I know.
Never.
It's cool. I'm very happy that I was a part of it. With the pilot, I didn't play the same character. I never finished that. I told you that I came back and did it later on, another audition for them another time, because I couldn't get my line out in the pilot either.
Mm.
When we shot the pilot, I was so nervous that Lorraine Bracco was in the scene with me. He offered me some role as like the hostess in a restaurant who was nondescript, looks like she's from Connecticut, because that's how I had my hair when I met him, was just slicked back in a ponytail, and I just turned them away. That I'm just like mistreating the Italians, you know.
My one Soprano story, I get out of prison, I'm on parole. I had violated my parole once, so I get out, and this was 95, 96. And a good friend of mine, Howard Baldwin, big producer, he used to own the Pittsburgh Penguins, a hockey team. He says, come, he was on Universal Lot. He's making some movies. He's come and read some scripts for me. Maybe we'll develop a mob show. I want you to stay out of trouble. I don't want you to get violated again. Just come and sit in the studio. We're right next to Steven Spielberg's bungalow, whatever you call it. So I'm there. And my agent at the time, Jack Gilardi, calls me up, agent friend. And he says, there's a guy, a producer by the name of David Chase, and he's creating this mob, show, and he's doing it for Fox. And he wants to talk to you about being a consultant on the project. I said, okay, what do you think, Jack? Yeah, might get it done or whatever. So I'm thinking about it. I'm on parole. I talked to Howard, and he said, oh, Michael, come on. I've got you here, and I don't think it's a good thing for you to do. So I passed on it. I didn't do it. I said, no, I can't do it. And then I went back, and I said, now, why did he call me? There's a lot of guys out there, right? But I had a reputation. And then when I saw the role of Tony's mother, I said, he must have heard some audio tapes about my mother and dad, because our house was bugged. And my mother she was a strong woman, and she was kind of like that character.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to say the opposite.
No, kind of like that. And I'm saying, wow, I wonder if he may have heard some of those tapes in his research, and maybe he wanted to get information to me. I was thinking about that. But then I heard David, that was like his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
So
time.
With that. But I'm telling you, that's how smart I was. I passed on it.
Yeah. I don't
Probably
know
could
who
have been a
did that.
consultant.
I wonder who was doing that. I don't remember.
I don't know who it was.
I remember there was a big thing. Wise guys don't wear shorts. Why do you have them wearing shorts?
My father wore shorts.
My
Yeah,
dad didn't really wear them either.
My
that
father
much.
wore shorts with sandals and black socks up to here. And I'm not kidding. And it was like, Dad, you're really going to go around my friends like that? He was, it was crazy. All right. So you got tremendous success with Sopranos. You move on. You're in the industry. You did a couple of more things. You did that Joey, right? It was a friend.
That was the job I took.
That was the one?
That got me into trouble.
And that was like 2 seasons there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, we thought that was low ratings, but we were still pulling 15, 14 million viewers.
Yeah. Low.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's not low. So you have some success there. Then cut to, we got the pandemic and everything goes crazy. You refused to take the vaccine.
I did. I refused.
And what kind of a turning point was that for you?
My life definitely changed completely. It's like an awakening. I wouldn't even say it was that much of one. Back in 2010, maybe, my ex, Shooter Jennings, he had an album called Black Ribbons. It's I think one of the best rock albums that have ever been made. And it's a concept album about the New World Order. And it was during the Bush administration. And we were super anti-Bush, but we were never political. And we got Stephen King to narrate it, wrote a lot of the narrations. He's a radio DJ, DJing from a pirated radio station on the last night before martial law sets in and the apocalypse begins, type of thing. And there's a song called Summer of Rage where I made the video with him, and I was like, please let me do it with you, please let me do it with you. And I used my daughter in the video. And it's about how her family is taken away and they leave, she's left to be raised by the televisions in the house. So every time she goes to leave the house, the televisions start yelling at her, no, stay here, look what I can do. And then a car explodes or a bomb goes off. And bath time, the TV says, come on, it's bath time. This is a baby, she's this big. It's bath time. She gets in the tub, the water's running itself in this house that now takes care of her, that has a mind of its own. And the premise of it was the TV would fall in the tub with her and kill her. And this was the message of the album. And in that song, it says, FEMA's building mass graves, you and I, they'll vaccinate. A gas mask is the couture in the summer of rage. So that's 2010. So the minute the world was about to shut down, and I'm getting like, the minute the world was about to shut down, I didn't believe it because it was written. My ex wrote it, you know, it was there. Like it was, I know these things have always been speculated if you were a conspiracy theorist or anything like, you know, whatever. But I really had my eye on that Bush administration at that time, the wars and 9/11, which I watched in person. It just, you know, I went down the rabbit hole. It was the first time we had computers. The MacBook came out, the big fat computer. It's weird to think about how things have progressed and changed. And that was the first moment of extreme technology, I felt like back then, where we could look up information and see awful things on the internet. And that was all this whole Osama bin Laden craziness. And man, were we misinformed back then. But it was the beginning of the information highway. What were we going to do with it? Were we going to use it for good or for not? Are we going to educate ourselves? Are we going to let them just pound information into our heads? I mean, where there's this information, there's that information. It's like, where do you go? And I felt like that when everyone was like, Dre, you can't go to Mexico. We were going to Mexico. The whole world's going to shut down tomorrow. And I was deathly ill. Obviously, I had COVID.
From COVID.
It must have been, but it was before. And I had been getting sick a lot before the shutdown. Chronic, like pneumonia symptoms.
Had to be COVID.
Huh?
Probably COVID, and they didn't.
Probably.
They didn't diagnose it then. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knew, but I lived. I was okay, but it sounded like I had a squeak toy in my chest for a while. I was a smoker, and I didn't know how dangerous it all was, and of course, I'm just still smoking.
Just so you know, my father passed away February 2020. Healthy, 103, but healthy. Goes into 103. Goes into the hospital, and within 3 days he died. And they didn't know, it was February of 2020, so they really didn't talk about COVID yet. They didn't know what it was. It wasn't until March that they started to really talk about it. But I think they said he died of pneumonia, but I believe it was COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it was rampant at that.
Yeah.
But what it is pneumonia with some
basically.
neurotoxins and some bio.
Well, some man-made stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that was really, I'm 103 though. That makes me very excited.
Yeah, I honestly think he would still be alive because he was in good health other than that.
You know what, that food that he was eating was probably better for him than the shit that we're eating out here.
No doubt.
You know, just
Well,
a
he was in,
few ingredients in
yeah.
those foods.
Well, he didn't eat much in there, you know. Neither did I. I mean, I watched what I ate, but yeah, I think he would still be alive. Wow. Because he didn't have really any health problems.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I said, "What happened? You know, how did it happen like that?" We were stunned.
You ready? You ready to be alive for a long time? Huh?
Hey, you know what? I am doing. I got a friend that calls me up, and he said, "You got to come down to Costa Rica." I said, "Why?" He said, "I got a good friend of mine. He's a big follower of yours, and he owns a big stem cell therapy."
I'm coming
place."
with you.
Okay. So no, listen, I go, right? And I get a complete, I mean, they do my face, I got the
Oh, you did it.
infusion. I got a plasma exchange where they take all your old plasma out, new. If you see the bag of old plasma, you'll get sick.
Wow.
Because, you know,
What does it look
plasma is
like?
clear, like that water.
Yeah.
And when you see what they take out of you, you're going to go, oh my gosh, all the toxins and everything
It's
that
green.
they put out. Yeah. Brown, and it's just ugly. And I don't smoke, you know, I'm pretty healthy. So I do that, and then they give you the stem cell infusion because it takes better when you don't have all that garbage in your system. And then I had a pain in my neck, and a pain in my back. So they gave me the stem cell injections, and it's gone. I'm telling you, it's gone. So this stuff really works. And I'll tell you this, Drea, if you can live another 5, 7, 10 years, you're going to be able to live past 100 and in good health.
Wow.
I'm telling you, they got this secret, and I went through their whole lab and everything else. It's amazing. So I've been telling all my friends.
Oh, I want to know more about it.
I'll put you in touch with Dan. You talk to him about it. See what you think about it. And at the appropriate time, I definitely recommend it. So I'm gonna go like once a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And my wife did it.
I mean, it can get dicey, though. It can get a little dangerous, too, right? No?
I don't think so. No.
No? I mean, I just want to go to Costa Rica. I'll go just to go to Costa Rica.
It was really nice. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, I
You
don't
should
think
advertise it on the podcast.
Well, you know what? He's a big follower of mine. He says, Michael, you know, we can work a deal out together. And I said, okay.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. I mean,
I had
obviously prices come down later on, but I like this place because he has the lab also. He knows where the stem cells are coming from.
Right.
Because some of these places, they just get them from wherever. But he actually gets them from the umbilical cord, brings them into his lab, and does whatever they have to do to make sure they're, you know, perfect.
Oh, I have all my umbilical cords, too.
Do you really?
The kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're
In my
preserved,
fridge.
obviously.
I'm just kidding.
No, not.
Like Abramovic.
Well, you know, at another time I'll give you the info. You talk to Dan and take it from there. But where were we going with this? Anyway,
so pandemic, like.
Yeah, so you decided not to take the vaccine.
Yeah, and I was as afraid as everybody was during the pandemic. Who knew? You know, we didn't know, but I knew. Who knew? But every day I was like, this is a bioweapon. That plane hit the World Trade Center. It exploded way too fast. I couldn't, like all of these, and I never listened to anything. I never even knew who, I just started listening to him this week, Alex Jones. I mean, so I wasn't even on that. I mean, he loved Shooter's album, so he started playing that on his show, but I never paid attention to him really. Because I knew that a lot of it was just like, I don't want to get afraid. I just want to live my life, you know? But I just knew it was bullshit. I knew that how do you shut the whole world down in symphony? I just couldn't get with it. So when the vaccine, when the problem came out and they offered the solution, I knew it was a one world government situation. And that was it. So I knew that there was no way I'd take the vaccine, but I spiraled out of control mentally over, you know, with fear that I would lose everything. And I did. I mean, look, a mandate, a fucking government mandate.
Tell you what you have to put in your body.
My body, my choice. I've always been my body, my choice. You know, it doesn't go both ways. Either you believe it or you don't. That's my message to liberal women. Like, get off your fucking high horse. This is not, you want to stand on that platform, then you better stand by it. You know, and another thing, you know, that's a whole other topic, the way they throw that topic around with pro-choice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, why doesn't it apply in everything.
Yeah, but even just the way they're maniacs, and it's like, so and I'm a pro-choice person. You know, I grew up super hippie liberal, but at the same time, I understand both sides, and I have no problem with both sides, but I'm not an extremist. So these liberal women that are so extreme about their abortion rights, to me is, I mean, that's a whole other topic that we can talk about another time. I jump around into everything, but it all started to feel very hypocritical. And now you're taking a topic that everybody held so dear to their hearts, which was pro-choice, and you just bastardized it. They bastardized everything, man. Just everything. And watching people separate at the start of BLM, that was another turning point for me. And it just, you know, when your little kid looks at you and she's watching the news and Don Lemon's telling everybody they're racists and all her friends are Black and Hispanic, and she looks at, and she was raised, you know, I was raised by a Nicaraguan lady, not just my mom, because my mom, you know, she didn't want to be Italian, the Italian housewife. She wanted to do her thing. So she's like, here's your nanny. This is your life now. So hearing that, you know, she's like, Mommy, am I racist? And I'm like, I have to research everything now because I don't know how to answer my kid. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't want to give her some flip answer so that she can, you know, kids go to school and they start talking about stuff. I have to make sure this kid is well informed, understands both sides of a situation, where everyone's coming from, with the vaccine, with this BLM thing, then Ukraine, Russia, and then and what's this war, Mommy? And I'm like, I then never, you know, they should have given me a script to research. I always joke around. They should have just let me keep working, because I would have researched that script a lot for hours. Instead, I researched everything that this generation would ask a question about. And man, I mean, and that's how I feel like I became the rat again. You know, I was sleeping before. Just let me sleep. You know, I questioned the Bush thing. We made a piece of art about it. It wasn't balls to the wall, let's go out and try to change the world. I ended up in a situation where I did things that I never thought I would do to keep my home.
They wouldn't let you work because you wouldn't get the vaccine.
No, and
you know, my daughter's a dancer, and she was quite prolific, and she wouldn't get the vaccine, and that's it.
Real.
Wouldn't let her rehearse, wouldn't let her audition, let her do anything. So she said, I don't care, I'm not doing it.
You know, like, okay, so she's your daughter, she can come back here. If my dad were alive, I would have been able to go back home if he wouldn't have, you know, told me, go fuck yourself, you should have done this, like my brothers. Like my brother, one of them was like, I can't help you with anything, you know, you could have taken care of yourself. And, you know, definitely he didn't think that it was a good idea for me not to get vaccinated. He thought I was hurting my family, my kids, myself. But I ended up, well, the agent dropped me. It wasn't like I was on a show and got kicked off. So people always say to me, you were canceled. I'm like, no, I was never canceled. I canceled myself so that nobody could jump to it. Because let me do that. I'm in control of me. You know, I didn't take the vaccine. I'm in control. I'm not going to take your jobs. I will take myself out of Hollywood. Goodbye. It's fine. So I'm in control. And that was important to me to know that. But my life had spun out of control because I lost my earning potential. And I was taking care of my Nicaraguan nanny who was on her way out. She was dying. That was the last job I was offered before the mandates, and I didn't take it because she was dying. And I'll never forget, you know, and it kind of goes, all of these things sort of combine. She was laying next to me, and I'm reading with the people for this job that I can't even believe I would read for this thing. I never really read for anything, but I read for this kind of a piece of shit project, and I was like, God, this is what my life is now. And I'm holding her hand, and I'm reading here. And my agent calls me right after, and she said, they just want to know how soon you think it'll be before your mom dies. And I'm like, you know what? Just pass. I don't want to do the job. The job is beneath me anyway. I don't want it. It would have been good money. I would have survived for the next 3 years because that's how I work. I take a job that will support me for 3 years, and then I don't work because I don't like it. Like you say, you don't want to do certain things. I'm like, I don't really like acting. I was good at it. I did good. Sopranos was great. What I like doing is being a mom. I like being home. I like just being a kind of a housewife, you know, even though I have my Letty, who I joke around, is my husband. She's my husband. I'm the husband. She's the housewife. I just want to be home with my family. That's it. So I always take jobs when I absolutely just need the money. That's it. I let the money run out and then I take another job. And the jobs are always there and it's fine. Now the jobs are not going to be there. And I took a forbearance, which everyone told me to take, which I should have never. Oh yeah, the government's got your back. Oh, the government's got your back. I wish I would have been paying closer attention to Ronald Reagan before I took that forbearance. And they screwed me.
Yes.
They screwed me and I ended up owing thousands and thousands of dollars and I couldn't get out from it. I borrowed money from the real estate company because they wanted the sale to my home. I was in foreclosure. Were my choices not the best leading up to it? Sure, they weren't. I should have just worked steadily, but I'm a single mom and I would never leave my kids with a nanny because I was left with a nanny and I just wouldn't do that. So these were my sacrifices that I had to make. And I was like, it's okay. They'll take the house, but we'll be together. They'll take the house, but we'll be together. We have to move to Savannah. They're going to mandate the vaccine for schools. We're going to move here. We're going to move there. We went everywhere to look at homes. Austin, Savannah. My kids were like switching schools nonstop. Shootouts at my daughter's school because we couldn't afford private school. So she's going to school with Bulletproof Backpack and Dystopia in LA. I'm like, what is happening? The whole world is crumbling. So, yeah, that's when my life changed. I'm no longer a Hollywood actor. I guess now all I do is talk about the truth and how I hate to say it, but how the government's just got a fucking foot on our necks all day long.
So what got you out of the mess?
I mean, I don't know if you want me to say that on your show.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Christian followers over here.
It's okay.
I mean, look, it doesn't matter really. And I'm going to out myself because, well, I shouldn't out myself. I should pretend like it's a really groovy porn page, but it's not. I went to Onlyfans. My kids actually were like, just do it. Just show your feet and just make a killing and they'll, you know, it's like clickbait, Mom. And I was like, all right. I did it because Robbie and I were going to do a podcast. We were going to do a political podcast on OnlyFans. I knew I wouldn't get censored there because I was getting censored too much when I did the podcast that you were on.
You said you can do a podcast on OnlyFans?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't. I've never been on the platform, so
It's there's a mix of the stuff people think it is, and then there's just like a fan page. I think it was originally intended to be more of a pay fan page. And then it turned into where girls were starting to do, you know, stuff. I always, my motto with it was, look, when I did it, everyone's like, just own it and, you know, be empowered. And I'm a 50-year-old woman who can still, you know, walk around in her underwear like Adriana. And I was like, no, but that's not the true story. I wasn't empowered. I was like, I did it out of desperation. And you were saying like, your daughter could have come home. I could have gone to my dad. I didn't have any of that to fall back on anymore. But the one thing I kept thinking about were the frontline workers and everybody that was a hero on television during the pandemic, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the policemen, and they all lost their jobs. And who am I to sit here and bitch and moan that my big Hollywood house won't sell? I couldn't even sell the house. I was trying to sell the house to get out of everything, but then the house flooded. I mean, it's like, I believe it was God with all of it. I swear, God flooded my home. It was like, it was the insurance money and having to, it tortured, it was a torture chamber because I didn't know how to deal with insurance. I'd never had problems. These were adult problems. I was used to thinking money was just like, you know, whatever, I would give it to my friends. That's why I had none. I was like, I never really thought about it in terms of that. And all of a sudden I'm faced with like insurance claims and all this. That's probably what saved me in the long run. But people like...
Because you were able to keep the house at the end.
I was able to pay back. I lived in the mold, even though I'm sure my insurance company hears that now. I mean, maybe I was supposed to go and relocate for a few months. But I lived in the mold and I suffered and I got sick instead because I was like, I need that money to help me get out of this pinch here. And nobody would help me because I wouldn't get vaccinated.
Wow.
And I'm like an Italian man. I would never ask anybody for money. And I asked one person for money and it wasn't, that person offered to just pay the lawyer $4,000 to see if the lawyer could make some of my issues with my mortgage company even out. Because I was also paired up with like 3 insurance companies that weren't even paying my insurance. And they wanted full payment on everything back. And I didn't even owe those insurance companies. So it was like I said, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars that I didn't have. So I did the OnlyFans thing.
Did it work out?
It worked out. It worked out. We saved the house. And because of the OnlyFans thing, I ended up in the news nonstop. And I'd never really done that much press. I don't like doing press. And now I came out my manager sent me the press. It was only 3 things, three requests I had. And he said, I'm not responding. And I said, why? And he said, because I didn't start your OnlyFans page. And I'm not getting a kickback. And I'm like, you mother, really?
Real nice.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I've been with you for 20 years. You know what I'm going through. You didn't care they didn't get vaccinated. The agent's the one who dropped me through the manager without even writing me, who I thought was my friend. She's like, just tell her that we're dropping or there's nothing we can do. That was that.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, the blowback because of this vaccination. How many people suffered because they refused to get vaccinated?
I don't even care. I don't care about my suffering with it at all because I look at these other people who did lose a lot and they're getting stuff back. I see that there's a play towards people being able to sue for losing their jobs. But what people can't get back, like this kid on Veterans Day, I saw Robbie posting something of this young girl. I go, what are you doing? And he goes, it's her GoFundMe. It's my friend's sister, this girl, Lindy, who is a veteran. I said, she's a child. How is she a veteran? Fucking military refused to allow her an honorable discharge if she left the military without getting vaccinated.
Yeah. That's all this woke garbage that they've
dishonorable
pushed.
Discharge she would have had. She got the vaccine and she's in a wheelchair. And I am like, I want to fight because now that I've been fighting for the last 3 years with this whole thing and then the election and trying to convince people that they have it backwards and that everything's inverted.
So let me ask you this. You're liberal, but now we have this election. We have Donald Trump and we have Biden and Harris. If you're willing to get into it, what was your thoughts about the Biden-Harris administration? And what was your thought about Harris running for president? Just her. You think she was qualified? Think she was competent?
Look, she didn't get to where she got to without having some level of competence. I mean, maybe. I mean, it could have been a lot of, some of that competence might have taken place on her knees. But, I question the level of theater that we're dealing with. Just being an actor, watching people act all day.
But let me ask you this. You have friends in Hollywood. We'll call it Hollywood, in the industry, right? What makes them, why would they follow a woman? Now, remember, she's running for office for the most important and the most powerful position in the world. In the world. Not only does she have to worry about this country, but the chaos that's been created around the world. What made them think that she was competent or she was qualified enough to do this job. And dual question, are they so detached from normal people and normal people's lives that they don't understand the chaos at the border, what's going on inflation-wise, what's going on at the gas pumps, what's going on with this gender-affirming surgery with kids, with minors? Why are they trying to pull parents away from having jurisdiction over their kids? Do they not grasp this? I mean, just because they're in the industry, does something happen within their brain? Are they wired differently? Because I don't get it. Just being look, probably didn't suffer like others might have suffered through this whole inflationary era that we're going through. But I'm still a husband, I'm a father, I have grandkids, I have common sense, I think. How do you go for these crazy progressive ideas? I just don't get it. What makes them come to those conclusions?
I mean, I always thought I was a progressive. I always thought I was a liberal progressive. Now I don't even know who I am anymore. I think that there's a few things going on, but I can't, because I actually don't know any of them. Actually, that's not even true. And what's messed up is every time I go on the news, because I became Fox's like token liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you turn your TV on, there's Dre again, bashing on Hollywood. Some of them I know, and every time they ask me about the ones I know, it was J-Lo, Christina Applegate. I'm like, oh, please don't, no. Let's start with De Niro. Let's break it down, because this must be hard for you. We love De Niro. This is one of our, where is he? He's back here. Wait, he's gotta be some, oh my God, look at all the boys. Look at the freaking boys over here.
Yeah, there.
Fucking love
isn't
that.
De Niro up there?
Oh, I love that one too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's only one person missing up there, but we've corrected that. That's Armand Asante.
Oh, is he in there?
Well, not this one, but the new one he is.
He's going to be in it.
Rejected
All right, I love Armand Asante.
De Niro.
Okay, De Niro. When I saw him go down to the courthouse, now he's a good actor. He's a good comedy actor.
Brilliant actor.
And he's a good actor.
Brilliant.
Did you believe a fucking word he was saying when he went down there? I didn't believe him. I didn't believe a word of it. I've seen Robert Downey Jr. do some things like with the eating of the bugs, and watched him sort of push it and advertise it. I'm sure you've heard about the whole World Economic Forum and the bugs. Again, wonderful, brilliant actor. I don't believe you. Who's making you do this? Who's put you up to this? And what was the cost? That's where so I think that we have a group of actors that didn't have a choice. Maybe De Niro had a choice, but to me, it felt like bad acting, and I could be wrong about it. It's just my opinion. I have heard a few things from people about what he might be into back.
Honestly, it's hard to understand with him, because I'm saying there's something personal happened between him and Trump, because he's really, there's a hatred there. If it's real.
But it's not, doesn't feel real. Does you think that looks like his kind of acting? He didn't sell it to me. I did not feel like he won another Oscar with that performance.
I think his big mistake, aside from that, is when he started yelling at the people. If you remember, he was
unhinged.
Yeah, he just
That's
lost
why
it.
It felt unnatural to me.
Yeah, he lost it.
It felt like he was unhinged, and I feel like there's so much chaos around this election. There was so much chaos around every artist that stepped foot on a stage with her. I felt like there was darkness around every single one of them. I felt like they were running for their fucking lives.
It was a fraud. It was all fraudulent. Oprah Winfrey, $1 million, $2 million, what's the difference? She got paid, or a company got paid for it.
Oh, I know.
That's not an endorsement.
Well, she's, the good club, her and Bill Gates and their whole...
even Beyonce and all of that, they all got paid for that. That's not an endorsement.
But there's still a camaraderie with the people that came out and spoke. Those last too that you mentioned. Those people have some sort of connection, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kamala with the, the Puff Daddy thing. They say the Puff Daddy thing was a cover-up for 23andMe that was being sold that day, and all of the employees quit. That was a possibility. That there was and they were using the Puff Daddy thing to divert from the news of what was actually happening with that company, because we all know that company is not much different than the PCR tests that we were using. I think it's just a lot of DNA sort of. They're doing weird stuff, man. And either you're on board or you're, gonna put bars on your house like us.
But let me ask you, did people get upset with you because you switched sides, so to speak? Because you didn't go for all the woke stuff and...
Some of my friends think I'm insane. A lot of my friends are still super liberal. I'm super liberal. This is what I feel like
you don't sound it.
But I'm like a classic liberal, even though I think that what's happened with a lot of us liberals that consider ourselves still liberals is that everything that we fought for, that, my mom, whatever, my great-grandmother was the only abortionist in 1950s Harlem. That's how I know who Trigger Mike is. He didn't like her. She was a murderer. And she was like, sorry, buddy, so are you, until he needed her at one point for one of his grimoires. So, but then they'd come in and say, she's 7 months pregnant, get rid of it. And she'd say, are you fucking crazy? I'm not getting rid of it. That's a 7-month-old baby. And that's what was happening this time around with abortion and topics like that. Gay rights, race issues, the abortion issues, everything that we were gentle about and open to turned into a circus. And it was like, this is not, you can't take all of, the whole trans thing with little kids. Like, okay, you want to have trans surgeries for adults and have some sort of insurance pay for it. Okay, we're cool. People in prison? Little kids, no consent for a vaccine. My daughter comes to me, how do you feel about post-term, after birth abortion, 7-month-old abortion? And then you talk to Democrats about it, and they're like, that's not true. And it's like, no, there's actual, like my daughter would show me these things.
It's true.
And I'm like, it's true. These people are working towards this thing. They're trying to normalize pedophilia. Like, these are normal. And then all of a sudden that movie that came out, the Freedom movie, what was it about the kids being trafficked?
Oh yeah, Cry Freedom? No, that wasn't Cry Freedom. I know
something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, great movie.
Yes,
with Jim Caviezel, yeah.
And Rolling Stone is another thing. When you watch the media flip from being anti-war, pro-freedom, to all of a sudden becoming these totalitarian propaganda machines for the government. And then you have rock stars, for lack of a better word, instead of raging against the machine, they're raging for the machine. And all these rock stars are saying, you can't come to my concert unless you're vaccinated. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Everybody, it's like, put huge brakes on it. I hear the screeching, It didn't make sense. And the way I see it, even with my liberal friends, and any liberal women out there, is that the reason why I started getting so outspoken, and I hate when actors get on their soapboxes and try to preach politics. I hated it when Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins did it, but I never appreciated Tim Robbins more when he came out and he was like, wait a minute, this is not cool what's going on, because he was one of the first ones to come out and speak out. But if you notice, there are no women speaking out about any of this except Roseanne. That's it. I can't think of any other female actors or rock stars that were. So I'm definitely I feel like I'm on a very lonely island. But it's like seeing your kid standing in front of a train on the train tracks, and the train is coming, and you want to pull them away. And I feel like that about even people I don't know. Like, I really, it hits me so fucking hard that so many people still don't understand what's happening. And I feel like even though they may not be able to avoid the nuclear meltdown that may happen or the civil war that might happen, I feel like there's definitely hope in the knowledge of it. That if you know and you're aware, the awareness of what's being done to you, and you can save yourself on some level.
Let me ask you this. Forget the term liberal for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's say progressive. And let's say progressive, because liberal, I knew a lot of liberal people. They weren't this liberal, where, abortion in the 9th month and things like that. I don't think there were too many people, if you line them up and say, whatever you call yourself, liberal, progressive, are you okay with abortion in the 9th month? I think most people are going to say no. I really mean it. Women, men, I think they're going to say no. But let's use the term normal and abnormal, okay? No, seriously.
Deranged.
Yeah, normal and abnormal. Here's normal. Gender-affirming surgery in minors, period, especially without the consent of the parent. That's abnormal. So you put that in the progressive column, and you put normal in the conservative column, because they say that's conservative. That's not conservative. That's just normal.
It's common sense.
That's common sense.
It's protecting your child.
Common sense.
Puberty.
The border. I made a very controversial statement. Some people called me on it, but I said, hey, that's how I feel, and I'll say it again. We have fentanyl and opioid coming over this border in droves, 100,000 people a year dying from it, mostly younger people. So they said, well, what would you do about it? It's very simple. I get the National Guard, I line them up across the border with guns and say, if you bring that stuff over, you're going to get shot because you're killing our people. That's protecting our country. You're going to get shot.
Well,
and if you continue to do it, you're going to die. I mean, what other way can you deal with this?
I don't know why your audience would ever be annoyed. Don't they know that was the original Mafia rule?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm saying every
no
once in a while
drugs.
you get it. I did an interview and somebody said, you said you wanted to kill people. I said, no. I said, they're going to get shot. I said, maybe they'll die. I don't know. But they're killing 100,000 people a year in my country, most of them young people.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's my position. That's normal. That's not abnormal. By saying you want to protect your people by not having them die from fentanyl poisoning or opioid addiction.
Yeah.
Okay? That. The economy. I mean, forget that. Crime in the neighborhood. You come into my neighborhood back then in Brooklyn, you commit a crime, you're gonna pay for it severely. Mm-hmm. We protect our neighborhoods. You know that. You grew up there. We protect our neighborhoods. So if we want to protect our neighborhoods, and you're saying, oh, let this crazy gang from Venezuela that's now in 16 different states, breaking into homes, human trafficking, doing all of that stuff. How could you be for that? That's abnormal versus normal. So I would love to have a conversation with any progressive or any liberal. Say, let's put these things side by side. Tell me what you're really for.
I think you'd break them down by the end. I think that they would eventually come to, have you ever seen like these PragerU guys going out and interviewing people on the street and asking, they don't, it's like they're so misinformed. And they don't do the homework. And a lot of 50-year-old women, that was my biggest bone of contention, is that 50-year-old women have this, it's funny to watch them now spiraling out on Instagram, that they were virtue signaling for so long. Some of it's fun to watch. They were virtue signaling for so long about all of these social issues. And now they're out there condemning Hispanic and Black women for voting for Trump and losing their minds. And I'm like, well, look at that. Look who just came out of the fucking closet. Yeah. You were always a racist, and now you are. Exactly. It was always you to begin with, the 50-year-old liberal woman.
Yes, it's not the conservatives, we call them that again, that are racist. Look, the race card they play, it's ad nauseum. And you know what, Drea? We are not a racist country. Does racism exist? Racism is going to exist till the end of time.
Of course.
In every country worldwide. It's just the way it is. We're not a racist country. When I hear Oprah Winfrey, how dare that woman say the race? She's worth $2 billion. Yeah. How did you get that? From being, from people having race issues with you? Come on.
I also don't appreciate the way the left, Oprah, Kamala, like, a perfect example of her in the debate using the quote of Trump's about Charlottesville,
Oh, God.
where she clearly knows what the quote was. The whole world knows. All you have to do is Google it.
Yeah.
But there are, 30% of the people that will never look anything up. So they're just going to go by, he's a racist, do all their weird Hitler rants and things like that. And she's on the news. Was it ABC? I don't remember. But you have, formidable news people there who, we know they're not formidable, but they appear to be to part of the public. And she'll blatantly lie. Obama did it too about that comment while he was shitting on his fellow black man. But it's unbelievable to me that she will use that as part of her debate tactics, knowing that she's lying to the American people, and the American people allowing her to do that, the ones that did in fact vote for her, which were still a substantial amount of people.
Which I can't believe.
I couldn't believe the numbers either. I actually don't believe that many people voted for her. I really don't.
I can't believe it. I mean,
Me neither.
Look, and I did a video. I said she came out with her economic plan and how she was going to make business better. So I got on logically and I said, well, she never ran a business. She never operated or owned a business. She claimed she worked at McDonald's. We found out that was a lie, and that doesn't qualify you to be a business person. How's she going to fix business and fix the economy?
She was a middle class family.
Oh my God.
She comes from a middle class
100
upbringing.
times. Yeah, but cut to what happened in her campaign. They went through $1 billion some odd.
I know.
$1 billion.
They were bragging about their billions. I'm like,
Yes.
of course you have billions. Look at who's backing you. You probably have Raytheon and Lockheed
But
Martin.
she couldn't manage the $1 billion. You see, she paid her staff $550 million compared to Trump paying his $10 million. I mean, the woman had no qualifications. So just out of common sense, how could you say we can put her in charge of the biggest economy in the world?
Well, I
It
think
makes
that
no sense.
I don't know what they think, the people that voted for her, if they really believed that she'd be in charge. I think the people that voted against her knew that vote. And I wrote this in one of my, posts for something. But when I was trying, the last few days before the election, I was like, to the liberal ladies, a vote, because they were so about him being a misogynist and all this stuff. I'm like, a vote for her is actually a vote for 300 white men. And a vote for him is giving the country back to 300 million people, to the American people. So 300 white men, that's who's going to be in charge. They've been in charge since Bush or even before. So I don't know why these women are so, I'm going to have a first female president. And I'll be honest with you, I am petrified. And this whole impeachment now, this missiles into Russia, I think that the whole play was always missiles into Russia, impeachment following immediately because of the missiles, and now we get a win-win. We got the missiles into Russia, we started the war, now we get to impeach him, we get to put in the first female president.
For a month.
That's what I'm worried about. And I think a lot of us are worried that if the chaos escalates, that I honestly, to pull that power from their hands, and look, even some of these picks, like.
So in other words, what you're saying is they're willing to sacrifice the world, bringing on a nuclear war.
They always were.
Yeah, willing to sacrifice the world.
Yeah.
I could not understand this last
But I don't
move
think
by
it's
Biden.
I know. Well, that's what I think. It's not his
midnight
move.
hour?
The same way it's not her moves. Like if she were in charge of the government, she was never going to be in charge. It was always going to be either Obama taking his orders, the people behind him. So, I think that there was a play in this. I'm always trying to find what the play is every time. And I think that the missiles going in automatically meant impeachment next. And then Kamala inserted, chaos escalated.
Well, it's the 25th Amendment they would use so they can get him out of there quick. Say he's something wrong with him. Put Kamala in for a month or so. and then hand
try
Trump.
to hold on to that power.
I'm just saying, hand Trump a disaster on the verge of World War III. That's but who knows? Hopefully Trump can speak to Putin and say, I'll be there soon. We'll relax this thing.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
did you see Charlie
the timing
Kirk's
on that is
text?
so, but everything they do is evil. It's demonic.
It's demonic.
These people are demonic.
Yeah.
We can get into this for the rest of the afternoon.
Forget
because
about
I
it.
get started on it.
Me too. I'll go on and on and on.
Yes, we could do this forever, but quickly, you have a clothing line and you have a jewelry line.
Yeah, the clothing line was a way for us to get out there and promote Kennedy.
Okay.
Because he didn't have a voice on the news at that time. So that was early on. And then once he had a voice on the news, then I was just promoting my clothing line. I just wanted people to start hearing his voice. You know, I didn't care who they were going to vote for. I just want people to be aware.
So you're an RFK guy? RFK
Both,
Jr.
all of it. You know, everything, as long as it stays on the straight and narrow, for real. I believe in RFK. I believe in Trump. I want to believe. I want to believe. I want to believe Trump's a hero. I really do. I'm questioning some of the moves right now. We're going to question them. But I'm hoping that there are strategic moves to keep the enemy close and observe it a little bit. I'm hoping. But I think we need a hero right now. I think it's nice to see people doing his little dance out there. It makes me crazy. And I wish that more people, more liberals would recognize that he's dancing to the gay anthem. Come on, guys.
Let me tell you, there's a couple of good signs with Trump. He's matured in his old age. He got wiser, let's put it this way. He's been president. He's been through the war. I mean, to put it mildly. Yeah. Big turning point for me, or big something that I really noticed when Scarborough, and his wife go and sit down with Trump.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Nazi. They called him every name under the sun. Horrible people, the two of them. They go sit down. For a minute, you say, all right, Trump is bringing them in just to abuse them and harass them. This is what you did to me for all these years and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't. He came out of the meeting. He said it was a very nice meeting. I was glad that they came. It seems like he really believes, he knows he needs to unite this country. Yeah. Because his whole persona changed. I think after the first assassination attempt, I think he said, man, this has really gotten out of control. He wants to unite this country. I think his legacy is, in his mind, to fix America and create peace throughout the world. Now, I don't think I'm wrong. Guy's a multi-billionaire. He doesn't need any of this garbage. He didn't have to go through anything. He could have said, I'm out, and they would have left him alone. They were just so afraid of him. I think the guy really wants to do good, and I think he's going to follow through. They're going to fight him every step of the way. You know, look, some of his things, Matt Gaetz, I'm not understanding it right now. You know, he wants him for the head of the DOJ. Controversial guy. Some garbage is going to come up about him. But RFK, I'm all for him. I heard him talk on I forget what it was, some talk show. And when he started naming the things that were in certain foods that we have now, every time I pick up the jar and I'm looking I don't want to eat any of this stuff anymore. He's 100% right. I know. You know, you see, you get an item from Canada that has 2 ingredients in it, and then you get the same item here and it's got 15. Yeah. What are they putting in our food? You know,
that's true. I mean, but he goes beyond that. Like him, he hopefully will be a little bit of a consigliere for Trump, because the reason why I wanted his voice out there was for Trump, because Trump says, we're just going to drain the swamp. He's not a man of many words. Like he's not eloquent when he comes out and speaks. He's funny. He reminds me of my dad in a way, you know? But
New Yorker, you know how New Yorker.
Yeah, New Yorker. I kind of love him, but whatever. I could be wrong about everything. Who knows? We'll see.
You're not.
But I do think that with Kennedy, he came out and he explains the corporate capture of all of the alphabet agencies across the board. What's it? 400 agencies that need to be dismantled. And he will explain it to you in the simplest of terms. Forget about the food. The food is like the last thing, even though that's what he's fought for years, Monsanto. But the way Big Pharma is tied into the food industry, that's a really big thing, because that's Big Pharma. Yeah. And that's a war on the American people. That's without us knowing that it's happening. It's insidious. So, I mean, not to us, but to some other people it is.
Well, listen, he's surrounding himself, Elon Musk, Vivek, these are 2 brilliant guys. Yeah. And, what I tell people, we have a $36 trillion deficit right now. $36 trillion. You and I didn't create that. Neither did taxpayers create that. It was irresponsible government that created that. They take our money and just, if everybody stopped paying taxes, the entire country, we're not paying. We're not going to lock
Do you
us
love
all
Ron
up.
Paul?
Huh?
Do you love Ron Paul?
I like Ron Paul, yes.
You like him?
Yes, I do. I like what he stands for. I mean, look, I had to, I'll give you a story about this book. I had written a business book, and my publisher, HarperCollins, said to me, you owe us another book. I said, okay, what do you want me to write? They said, political. I said, great. They said, you can think of a title. Right off just like that. I said, Mafia Democracy.
Nice.
You want a book? That's what I'm going to write about. They said, great. I go home. This was 7 years ago. I go home. I start writing the book. I get about 5 chapters in. I look at my wife and I say, why am I doing this? Nobody's bothering me now. I have no trouble with the government. And why do I want to bring it? Because I really went after everybody, right? Both sides. I went back to HarperCollins. They gave me a nice advance. I wrote them a check back. I said, I don't want it. I can't write this book.
Really?
Yeah. Cut to 2.5 years ago. I said, I feel a responsibility to write this book. And that's when I went back and wrote it, because this is so out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, these people make us on the street look like choir boys.
I love that ex-mafia guys are talking about how out of control the government is, and they actually want law and order.
Absolutely.
Which is astounding. And if people could understand what that actually means in the grand scope of things, that's pretty wild.
Yes.
To hear that, and I joke around with Robbie, if things don't even out, and if we do end up in a civil war, and if they don't inaugurate him for God knows whatever reason,
Who knows what they have planned?
because I worry about that. I am worried about it. I will pray until we get there. My birthday's on the 19th, so everything needs to be cool before the 19th and 20th.
19th of
January.
Oh boy, you're right there.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I'm going to go or not. I'm supposed to be in China at that time with my daughter on her school trip. I'm like, we can't go to China right now. I don't think it's a good idea.
I would rethink that, maybe.
But I know. I forgot what I was even saying. But
Well, you worried right up to a day of inauguration, yeah.
what was I saying before that? Oh, Robbie and I were joking around. I'm like, if things get wild, you're going to see, because everyone says the mafia is dead. I'm like, the mafia is going to rise back up. And the gangs are going to be our allies. The mafia is going to be our allies. The gangs are going to be our allies, because we're all going to be breaking off into different groups of people. And everybody needs an ultra free shirt so they know what team you're on, because this means we, the people. Those are my pronouns.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. But you know what? We're going to go through, listen, we know what we're going to go through. It's going to be tough. But he's going to be inaugurated, and I think the country's going to get straightened out.
I think there's going to be false
I'm just
flags.
worried about this whole Russia-Ukraine thing right now. The timing of that is just, these people would rather see a nuclear war.
I don't think it's going to be, it would never
I don't think it's going to happen.
Mutual destruction. I think if they do something, it's going to be, it'll be tactical.
Yes.
But that's still, major destruction. And I think that there's going to be civil unrest, a lot of it. And I think that America needs to be prepared to take care of themselves behind their closed doors in a different way, just for a minute, just in case. The grid. I worry about some of our vulnerabilities.
I agree. All right. Rapid fire. I'm going to give you some names, and you just give me a word,
shit, I'm
2 words.
so bad at this.
No, you'll be good at it.
They never stop
You're sharp.
talking.
You're very sharp. Okay. Do a little Sopranos. Favorite character?
On The Sopranos?
Yeah.
Christopher.
Oh, okay. Favorite scene?
Oh, Aida too. I mean, anything with Aida in it. Aida Turturro. Any scene with Aida.
Really?
I love her so much. She's my other favorite character.
Okay, I got to ask you this. There was a scene when you and Christopher were high.
We're really high.
Were you really high?
We smoked weed. And we swore we'd never do it again. Oh, we were dying. We were so paranoid.
So you smoked weed before the scene?
And
were you supposed to?
No.
You just did it.
We're not supposed to be high on set.
I was wondering if David said, hey, get really high. I want this to be...
They put red stuff in our eyes and everything. I was like, we're so stoned. Never get high on
so that
set.
was
No
legit.
to young actors.
Okay.
Don't ever get high on set.
David Chase,
Godfather. My godfather.
James Gandolfini,
King.
Adriana,
Lamb.
Lamb.
Sacrificial lamb.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got to ask you this. Many Saints of Newark.
Oh. I need to revisit that. I didn't like it. My first reaction was I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. I feel like it would have been better as a series because I liked all the stories, but they weren't a movie. And the movie was supposed to be about his youth, and there were too many offshoots. I know they had to stick to some protocols, I'm sure, but I would have liked to have seen those stories in a series.
My opinion should have never been made. It
Yeah.
didn't do the series justice in any
No.
way. In any way, shape,
No,
or form.
I
don't know what they were thinking.
I don't even associate it with The Sopranos.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Separate.
yeah.
Okay, last one, Donald Trump.
Macho Man. I'm dying for them to start doing Macho Man now. So YMCA. Oh my God, Donald Trump, one word. What do I say? I want him to be our hero. I'm not going to, I'm no false idols, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to have faith.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to deliver.
And I want him to be protected.
He should have, aside from Secret Service, he should have his own personal
I
security.
agree. I don't trust Secret Service.
I agree.
That's another agency.
I agree. Normally I shake hands, but you were terrific.
Oh,
Yes.
you don't shake hands?
Well, always guys, you know, when we usually hug. But
Oh.
But you were great. I appreciate
Oh,
it very
right on.
much.
Thanks for having me.
So there you have it. I would assume most of you agree with me. Strong, independent. She's got her jewelry line now, her clothing line that represents her thinking, you know, and the way she carries herself. And she tells you about a number of things that occurred. You know what really got me? The fact that she was blackballed from the industry because she refused to get vaccinated. These things just drive me crazy. That our government fraudulently had us get vaccinated or mandated that we get vaccinated, and when we didn't, we suffered. Lost our job, got blackballed from the industry, the whole bit. She had to go through a whole thing. Her family turned against her, the whole thing, because she did the research and refused to put that stuff in her body. And how many people did that happen to? But what did she do? She did what she had to do to survive, you know? So look, you got to do what you got to do to survive. You know, sometimes we agree with it, sometimes we don't, but hey, who are we to judge what other people do? They do what they do, and that's it for whatever reason they have, right? So she did what she had to do, you know, and now she's come back, you know, she's got, again, her jewelry line, her clothing line. I'm sure she's going to get some more acting jobs if she chooses to have that. She said she's more of a Hollywood outsider, which I respect also, you know, quite a bit. And so that's it. But I really enjoyed the interview, people. I got to tell you that. And my wife enjoyed meeting her and her boyfriend, and it was just a great sit down. So hope you enjoyed it. And that's it for today. So how do I always leave you? Same way. Never going to change. Be safe. You know, my whole sermon about being safe, especially you ladies, you could be strong and independent, but you still got to protect yourself. Be safe. Be healthy. RFK, I keep saying that. Make us healthy again. Be safe. Be healthy. And yes, I mean this. God bless each and every one of you and your families, especially through this holiday season. And God bless America. See you next time. Take care.